Alright, welcome back to the workshop. Today we're going to continue to work on the manual transmission swap for the 840ci. In the last episode we actually removed the automatic transmission, put the manual transmission in. Today we're going to go through the hydraulics, the pedals, the shifter assembly, some minor wiring that needs to occur, as well as actually a software update. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so like I said in the intro, we've already removed the automatic transmission from the E31, put in the manual transmission. I've actually already put the drive shaft in as well, so we need to get in the car next and start removing the automatic transmission shifter linkage and replace it with the manual transmission shifter bits and do the pedals and whatnot. So let's jump in the car and start with that. Alright, we're in the car. As you can see, I've already removed the upper console so we can get to the shifter assembly to remove it. First thing you have to do to get the console out, or the upper console, is to remove the radio. There are two small Allen keys on the side of the radio. You just stick a little, I think it's like a 2 or a 1 Allen head in there. Undo them and pull the radio out, and obviously disconnect the cables in the back. The second thing you're going to have to do is remove the trip computer. To get this out, it's only held in by a couple clips up top. So you're going to pull it out a little bit, put a soft plastic tool in here, push these down a little bit to wiggle it out, and as it pulls out a little bit, there's a bar on the bottom here that kind of snaps in to the upper console here. So you get in there and just push that up and it slides right out, and there's one connector on the back. With that, you can go ahead and remove this after you have three screws here, 1, 2, remove the trip computer, get these 2 up here, pull up the shift boot, and there's one down at the bottom, down here, and these 2 up here. And what you leave the temperature controls in there, pull the whole thing out. You're going to want to obviously do it under the cables here and the cable in the back of the AC heater controls. But it comes out as one unit, fairly easy. Now that it's out, you can see how many wires are down in there. But to get the shifter boot out, there's actually 2 10 mil nuts down here. There's another 10 mil up front that's underneath this clip in the front. That clip kind of just holds a wire or something in there. So remove that, undo the third 10 mil. Then there's it looks like it's the interlock for the park interlock. On the side here, there's a 10 mil that holds that down. Just undo that and slide that off. It's pretty easy. It just kind of slides on that and roll onto the shifter itself. Last thing is to remove the shifter cable itself. It's got a clip on the back side of it holding the cable into it. So just pull that straight off, and there's also a clip on the side of the cable itself that clips into the fork assembly. So just pry that little thing off of the cable itself, take the pin out, and then push it through the assembly here. So now that it's all loose, you have to go back under the car and pull the cable out itself, because you really can't pull this out because it's kind of holding the front edge of the shifter in. So with that, we'll go into the car, pull that out, and then yank this out. Alright, well, as you can see, I got the shifter out. It was a lot more difficult than I thought. It's got, like I said, 2 bolts back, or 2 studs and nuts here. It's got a stud there. I thought after I removed the shifter cable I could just lever it out and get it out, but there's a tab on the front of this thing. Obviously, you can see I snapped mine off, but this tab slides under this metal bar here. It's essentially this metal frame that holds the console together. I couldn't slide this back far enough to get the front of this out from underneath that metal piece. So I pulled up too hard and snapped it off. But my assumptions are they put the shifter on before they put the console on. If you removed all this console, the whole thing, you could probably slide this far back enough to lift up the front of it and get this out. But hell, I'm not going to use it anymore. So I don't know why they did that. It's got 3 bolts holding it down anyway, but whatever. Over-engineering by the Germans. Okay, so the next step's now I can put the shifter in and measure for my shifter arm. Now that the bottom of this is out of the way, and I can kind of measure things up. So back into the car. Okay, well, as you can see, I've temporarily put the upper console back in, gone under the car, hooked up all the shift linkage, and what I've got installed right now is the E31 shifter arm. It's in 4th gear right now. That's neutral. That's second. that 6th over there. So obviously the E39, if you're using parts for this swap, the E39 shifter arm is not going to work. You have to get something a lot shorter. So I'm going to disconnect it, put the shifter head probably about here somewhere, and then measure the length of the arm I need for the shift linkage. Get something ordered, and then we'll move on to the 3rd pedal. Get the brake pedal removed and put the clutch pedal in. All right, on to the next step. Since I'm not as young as I used to be and not nearly as flexible, I've removed the front seat and the steering wheel and the little kick plate underneath the dash so I can get access to the pedal box and to add the clutch. Let's go. Okay, well, underneath the dash here, I've already removed the middle section of the steering column. There's a collar on the forward side that's held together with a bolt. Take that out and remove that bolt there. There's also a larger nut on the back spline side of the steering column. Go ahead and remove that as well. And move the steering wheel as far forward as you can just to get more access to remove that middle section of the steering column. I've already removed the bolt for the brake pedal as well. Just one bolt through here and remove the brake pedal. It's pretty easy. There's also an HVAC, kind of an air conditioning vent that goes through here. It's like a plastic vent. It's held on by these clips here. So this next section, there's a bolt right here that doesn't have a head that's been sheared off. There's actually a couple bolts underneath it through here. To get access to those bolts to remove the bracket, you're going to want to cut a slice in this bolt here with a Dremel and remove it back out with a flathead screwdriver just to get that bolt out. And the rest of the bracket is held in by these 4 nuts on the back of the firewall that are held on there, as well as one more bolt here. So once all that is done, you can remove the bracket for the steering column. Well, as you can see, the pedal box is out. This is the one from my 840 with an automatic transmission. I was hoping I could just take off this bolt here for the brake pedal and swap over the clutch and brake pedal from the manual assembly onto here, making it really easy. But the manual pedal box has this little bracket where the clutch spring kind of pushes against for pressure for the clutch, which is not on the automatic pedal box assembly bracket here. So this does have to all come out. It was pretty difficult. The worst part was trying to get this bolt out here. This is the one without the head on it. I guess at the assembly plant, it used to have a head on it, and they torqued it down, and it comes off. It shears off once they tighten it. But I just took a Dremel, cut a slice into it, and was able to back it out that way. But after you get this one bolt out, you can actually move the rest of the steering column assembly out and kind of pull it out a few inches and get these last 2 13 mil bolts here. So once you get this and these 2 out, obviously you got to undo the nuts that are on the firewall here, and there's also one bolt here that you have to take out. But once that's all off, there's enough clearance where you can pull it forward and clear the steering column shaft that's coming through the firewall, pull it forward a little bit and get it out. But once that's out, actually before you take that out, make sure you take a Sharpie and mark your input feed and your output holes on your firewall. This is where your input line comes in. This is where obviously your clutch output goes. I thought BMW would just have grommets there, and depending on whether it was a manual or automatic, they just had grommets in the firewall. They don't. They've actually covered up the holes in the firewall with some epoxy or something. So make sure you mark these on the firewall, and then I used the 7/8 inch drill bit for the top one and a 1 3/8 for the bottom. And the 7/8 inch hole is for the 7/8 inch grommet that fits perfectly on the feed line. So it fits perfectly. So I'd recommend a 7/8 on that one, and then the 1 3/8 fit this the grommet that goes through the firewall for the high pressure side of the clutch fit perfectly in a 1 3/8 inch hole. It's a little oval shape, but it does fit perfectly on here. So with that, this thing is ready to go back in, or this thing is. We're ready to go. I pulled off the brake master reservoir because you'll need to actually access this and cut this little plastic bit off. This is what feeds your clutch. So pull this off. It's held on by 2 rubber grommets in the master cylinder. Just pull it off, cut this off, and that's what your feed hose will be for your clutch underneath your dash. So take that off, do this next. So here's the kick panel that goes underneath the dash. You see it's got the one for brake, or the old brake rather. Now that I've got a clutch pedal, I'll need to modify this so the clutch pedal can go through here. But if you look from the factory, it looked like it was actually cut out, or they had an additional molding process that filled this in. So just take a Dremel, I'll Dremel this out, cut that out, that way I'll have a place for my clutch pedal to go through. Alright, for hydraulics, I went ahead and used Chase Bays. They've got really good stuff, good selection of hydraulic hoses. This is from an E30. They offer an E30 extended, which is what this is. I would not recommend that. It's just a little bit too long. You can see it's got a little loop in there. I'm kind of worried about trapping air up in there, but I bled it and it seems to be okay. But when you're putting a hydraulic line on, I would recommend putting this on the master cylinder first. So put the pedal box in, get the master cylinder, put the hydraulic on the end of it, and then feed it through the firewall before you attach the master cylinder. Because there's no way you can actually attach this hydraulic line to the master cylinder after it's already through the firewall. Reaching up in there is almost impossible. So put this on the master and on the pedal box first, feed it through the firewall, and then hook it on this slave cylinder here. Like I said, don't get the extended one. It's a little bit longer than I need. If you're doing this swap, I'd recommend just using the standard E30 hydraulic line. Well, as you can see, the pedals are in, everything's buttoned up. I went ahead and put the kick panel on as well. Everything's attached. I bled the clutch already, so it feels good. So everything under here is buttoned up. Let's jump under the car and check out the fitment for the shifter arm. So this is the donor E39 selector rod. It was a little too long, and I was going to get a custom length selector rod from Garagistic or Ireland Engineering or whatever. But I decided to go ahead and cut this one and cut 14 mil out of it and re-weld it back up, and I had some silver spray paint here in the workshop just to keep it from rusting. I'm going to try this first. I think this might work. Well, the Sorton E39 selector rod actually worked really well. It's 14 mil shorter and it fits perfectly. The shift knob inside the car is perfect location as well, so that worked out really good. With that, all the mechanical bits for the project are done. Like I said, the transmission is in, the selector rod and shifting mechanism is all installed. The pedals are in, the clutch is bled, all the mechanical bits are done. So with that, I'll put the drive shaft in, the exhaust back on, and then we'll get to the wiring parts. There's a little wiring that needs to be done. First would be the reversed switch. There's this little connector that my transmission didn't come with. It's basically the same connector and switch that has come on the E30s, E31s. In fact, I think I got this off an E90. So just go to the junkyard if your transmission didn't come with one and put it in and feed it up into the cab through the existing hole. Other things underneath the car with respect to wiring, you'll need to remove some of this cabling that went with the automatic transmission. I'm just going to remove the sheathing here and pull out the two O2 wires and pull all this other stuff for the automatic transmission back up into the engine bay and deal with that in a bit. But with that, we are done with mechanicals. And like I said, I'll put all this together and we'll get to the wiring portion of it. Alright, the last step in the process to get this swap done is to do some wiring. It's usually everybody's least favorite, but it's pretty easy. The first thing you want to do is get the wiring for your switch, your reverse switch on your transmission. I extended mine a little bit, but you're going to be looking for this connector. It's on the right hand side of your console here. This little connector on top with the two wires, that is your reverse switch. So basically just wire into there, or if you can find a connector that fits, obviously do that. It's going to be your blue yellow wire. It's really just your power and your ground there. Just connect them, and it doesn't matter which way you do it. It's just a switch for the close switch for your reverse switch. So just put that in there. Okay, for the last step, underneath the hood, I mentioned inside the cab that there's going to be one bit of wiring you're going to have to do to get the car to start. Right now it's looking for, the EWS is looking for a signal from the automatic transmission, which it's not getting. And then it sends that signal to the DME to allow the DME to start the car. So it's obviously not getting that. You can climb under the passenger side dash and wire a 12-volt signal to the EWS, pin number 9 of the EWS module. Or you can pull these 2 cables that come off the automatic transmission. You can pull them back up through. You can cut these off, but I'm just going to leave them here. There's plenty of room in the e-box to just roll them up and store them back in there. But the thinner of the 2 is the one you're interested in. According to the wiring diagram, pin 4 gets a signal from the fuse block, basically, of positive 12 volts, which is pin 4 over here. And it goes through the switch in the transmission and comes out pin 5 of the same connector, which goes back to pin number 9 of the DME. I'm sorry, not of the EWS. So to get that 12 volt signal to the pin number 9 of the EWS, you just want to jumper pin 4 and pin 5 of the smaller gauge cable. You can either put something in here, make something to jump the 2 together. You can cut the connector off and wire those 2 together. It doesn't really matter. It's just looking for a 12 volt signal to the EWS to be able to start the car. So once you pin that, you should be able to start things up. And that's it. All right, we're on the home stretch here. Everything is done with your car mechanically, wiring. You can start and drive your car just fine as it is, but you will get an error code. There's an error code that comes up on your MID that says trans fail, safe fail code, something like that. You can either ignore it, unplug your MID and just ignore it, or we can fix it the proper way, which is what we're going to talk about here. A couple things you need are 2 bits of software that are free, and also your interface cable to plug into the port of your car, and also your laptop. It can either be USB or serial, depending on your laptop. But once you're plugged in, the 2 bits of software are E31 EKM coder. It actually is able to download and upload files to the EKM module. Also, the second bit of software is called NCS Dummy, in Nancy, CS Dummy. That's also written by the same guy. It's also both of these softwares are available on Beamer forums. They're written by a guy named RevTor. Again, free. Download those, and that's what those 2 bits of software which you're going to need to modify your EKM coding. One is the E31 EKM coder downloads and uploads a data file. NCS Dummy is actually able to manipulate the file itself. So it sounds more complicated than it is. I'm not a computer or software guy. It takes me 5 minutes. So first thing you do, once you're plugged up to your car, start your E31 EKM coder software. The software itself is very simple. There's really only 2 buttons, download and upload. So first thing we want to do is download the software or the data file from your EKM. And once it's downloaded, it actually gives you information from your car, like your vehicle identification number that's registered in your software, as well as the manufacture date and obviously all the settings for the car as well. So the settings we're looking for are for the transmission. So once we've downloaded that data file, go ahead and save it to your laptop. Call it anything you want. I'm going to call mine automatic or auto. And save that file. And then the second part is to open up NCS Dummy. Again, NCS Dummy is a light version of the NCS software that BMW uses to code their stuff. It's more of just a small version, if you will, that RevTor has written, and is actually able to manipulate the coding for that software. So open up your NCS Dummy, open up the file that you just saved to your laptop, and you're looking for 3 specific settings. I'll put those lines of code on the screen. There's a find button on here, or a search bar, but it's also translated as well, which is really nice. And change those 3 lines of code to inactive or off, basically, to tell your EKM to stop looking for your automatic transmission. And once you modify those 3 lines of code, save that file. I would save it as something different just in case you mess something up. You can always go back to your old file that you originally saved. So save it as something different. I'll call mine manual. Okay, with that, go back to your E31 EKM coder software, open up that file that you just manipulated, and upload it to your car. And that's it. Again, it sounds more difficult than it is. It's really just changing 3 settings basically. And now your car thinks it's a manual transmission, and it'll stop looking for the automatic and stop giving you that error code. So I've been driving the car for a couple weeks now. It's been fine, no error codes, no check engine lights. It thinks it's a manual and doesn't behave any differently. So there is one more thing I would recommend. Obviously, you don't have to, but the original DME or your engine ECU controller thinks it's an automatic. The engine's got an automatic on it, so that the fuel and timing might be a little tuned for an automatic. I would recommend you have your DME retuned for manual transmission, really just a performance tune. There are quite a few different performance tuners that could put a performance tune on your DME. I would do that, but make sure you tell them it's for an E31, because the E31 DME coding is slightly different than an E39, which also had the same engine. Certain things, if you get an E39 DME coded for your car, certain things on your E31 won't work, like your AC, your cruise control, small things like that won't work. So make sure you do tell them it's specifically for an E31. But with that, we're done. We now have a manual transmission. In the next video, I'll take it back to the dyno, put it on the dyno, see how much horsepower we picked up, if any. Probably not much, but it'll be interesting to learn to see how much that automatic transmission was actually sapping out. But with that, we're done. If you have any questions about what I've done here, or any questions about maybe tricks of doing it better, let me know. I'll try to answer you as soon as I can. But with that, we're done with this video. Until next time, I'll see you back at the dyno, and hopefully you'll learn something. And until next time.